Welcome. And with us today, I have Jem from Australia. Welcome, Jem. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's a delight. I'm really privileged to be sitting here with you and having a chat.
Now, one of my guests from Australia told me before, I'll have to see if this is true, that Australia was a place they used to send criminals, like an island that they
Yeah,
just sent them to. And then
yes,
so everybody that's there now is like some sort of relative to a criminal that was just
a convict they
left
used to call
astray.
them. Yeah, yes, that is
So
very
that's
true.
true.
Yeah, Botany Bay.
Do you, how long ago do you know?
Well, we did a little bit of a study at the beginning of the year with the kids, and please don't quote me because I don't retain a lot of information. 1860, I think, was that when it was, but don't quote me on that because I don't retain information. But yeah, just that journey. Yeah,
Not that long ago when you think of the
no,
grand scheme of things.
no,
So it's like a
no.
grandparent or two ago, a couple
I mean, I
grandparents
could
ago.
be wrong. It might be more than that, but just that story of them coming over and why convicts came over. You could have just been someone just providing for their family and just, taking an apple, and then they're on the ship back, and then they were basically slaves. They were brought over and they built the camp.
Okay, so how many kids do you have and what are their ages?
Yeah, so I actually have 4 kids, all different ages. My oldest is 19 at the end of the year, so December. He's a December baby. He is now working. He's doing a trade, cabinetry and joinery, and he's really enjoying that. He's into his second year, so we're not homeschooling him. He's made his own way now and his own journey, which is fantastic. My next one is turning 16 in a couple of weeks, and he's in year 10, well, what you call year 10, and I have 2 girls, 13 and 10 as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when did you start homeschooling?
So we started at the beginning of this year for many different reasons. I guess the school system just wasn't working for the challenges that they were facing with the newly diagnosis of. So I've got 2 on the spectrum, plus possibly a third, so the 10, the 13 and the nearly 16-year-old, and the school system just wasn't working for them, even though we had lots of support at school and we had everything set up for them. It just still wasn't working for them. So we just had to make that change for them.
Yeah, I hear that very often. Like I can't homeschool because my kids have special needs and moms especially feel like they're not adequate enough. Like it's intimidating to them to saying, I can do better than all of these services that the state or government are providing. But obviously you're seeing the opposite, that you are more than capable, even than all of the different resources that they're providing you, everything that was set up. Can you talk a little bit about the benefits to homeschooling when you do have a child with special needs?
Yeah, so obviously we were faced with school can't or school refusal. I'm not sure if you know those terms. It's basically where they just can't get to school. They want to be at school, but they just can't get to school. It was, the kids were facing difficulties with their processing skills and that rush to get out the door, and then that would lead to them to a meltdown because they didn't have that time to get themselves ready and be at school by 9 a.m. And now they just get to have their slow morning. They get up on their own and they're able to, look, we don't start homeschooling probably till about 11, but that's what's working for them, and that's okay, and it could change. And I just want people to know that that's okay. School does not have to be between 9 and 3.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some of the other benefits, like the one-on-one, or have you changed curriculums even? Like this actually works better for you than what they were doing at school.
It's funny, I listened to a lot of your interviews and I was a bit in the same mindset that, do I have to follow a curriculum? Like, no, I don't. And I did sort of at the beginning say, okay, we went and spent a bit of money on some books to work through. And very quickly we found that does not work in any way, shape or form. Sitting down at a desk, working from a book or a computer screen, however you want to do that. So we are sort of on the path to unschooling. And that happened very, very quickly and very, very naturally. And I think one of the benefits is that with that, you can cater to their interests and their needs and what their goals are. I think this year for us, it was more about that decompression from school and learning what their interests are So my 13-year-old daughter, she's level 2 ASD and ADHD, and she has this passion for animals. Like, you could just sit there all day and just talk about animals and all the different things about animals. Doesn't matter what it is, it's just up there. And she's quite obviously going to go into that field when she's older. And so once a week we go out and volunteer out at a animal rescue farm for her, and that's part of her homeschooling, and she can get hands-on with these animals. And there was a sick cow out there the other day, and I've got a photo of her just straddled over the back of this cow, holding its mouth and its head so that people could administer the medication. And, they just don't get that in a school, that hands-on experience. And that is such an amazing learning opportunity for her. Instead of sitting there and just reading about it and like, we don't get me wrong, we still do that. But this is where she's learning the most. This is what she's going to do later on in her life, and that's going to just set her up for success when she's older. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
she's seeing like what other jobs there are firsthand. She's not
yeah,
like hearing about it as she's scrolling through what college degree should I get, and okay, that one sounds good. It's like, no, here she can view what that veterinarian or whatever it is, homesteader does on a daily basis and say, oh, I think I would like to do that, or a variation of that. They're actually seeing
right,
it as a job.
yeah. Yeah, I don't put any restrictions on what she can and she can't achieve, or any of the children. But, she might not be able to manage going and doing a further education anyway. So being connected to the people out there that don't have any of those skills, they haven't been to school, they haven't done any further education either. So, if she picks up all of that experience, those hands-on experience and those skills, and learn that way, she won't need to go. She won't need to go to that higher education, because she'll already have those soft skills and those hands-on experiences, and learn from people that she's already connecting with. So that's one of the benefits. The other benefit is, having sensory overload all of the time. The kids can just learn at their own pace. They can go jump on my bed and tuck themselves in and read, and they can, this morning my daughter was sitting here next to me while I was setting up here and just doing maths and English and phonics and stuff that we do a little bit of, and we haven't had done for quite some time. So I said, today we're just going to sit down 20 minutes, just read your book and fill out your questions. Nothing too difficult. So they can find a space where they're comfortable, where they feel at peace, and they can just be themselves and learn. And I think that if their well-being is being met that way, they're going to learn, they're going to thrive.
How are the schools in Australia? Like, what has been your experience with them?
So we have moved schools all around a little bit. Like, we went to a public school, kinder, which is age 4 to 5. I did that in a private schooling, which was lovely, and we just couldn't afford at the time to send them all the way through private schooling. That was amazing. That was really hands-on. They loved that. But then I had to send them to public school, and I think that was just the worst decision ever, because I saw that, my son at the time wasn't allowed to hold things in his hand. The teachers said to me that, it's distracting other children from learning. He can't hold things in his hands. He can't scribble on a notepad. Eyes have to be up at the board, but he takes things in by sitting there and fiddling with things and drawing, scribbles, whatever. But he'll be listening, but the teacher doesn't think he's listening. So, that was a bit of an eye-opener. And all these things sort of just started showing up in the public school system. Even when I addressed the issue of, what have you noticed about the kids at school? Like, I'm beginning to see some behaviours that aren't normal. This is way before their diagnosis. And they said, no, they're fine. They're fitting in well. They're doing their work, they're not behind. They're just there. They're just plugging along, which to me wasn't true, because I was seeing a whole other picture when they came home from school. So that was my concern, that, they're just ticking boxes. They're not really in tune with what is really going on with the kids. Look, I give teachers so much credit, because, they're looking after a whole class, 33 children with one teacher. So, they're not always going to be able to have that relationship with each and every child. But when you go and ask questions and they can't give you the answers, it really makes you think about, what are they actually learning? What are they actually achieving if the teachers don't really know what what their interests are and how they're actually functioning in the classroom as a student. But yeah, there's so many eye openers in the public school system.
Well, and when you think of it about like, oh, they're just chugging along and oh, they're getting by. It's like,
We
what
don't
kind of
want,
childhood is that? I mean, they're just setting
yeah,
us up for that in adulthood, right? Like, oh, I
mm-hmm,
sat in a cubicle for 16 years just chugging
correct,
along and just getting by. And now that I'm outside of that system, I'm like, oh my gosh, there was so much to learn outside of the
correct,
cubicle walls. I mean, the just going outside and paying attention to, insect that you've never seen before and looking it up and what is that? And, watching birds build a nest near you and,
you
the
get
whole
that
process of
opportunity.
that. Or driving by a building. I said to my son today, I go, this building that we've been by hundreds of times. I'm like, wow, that's a really old building. Is it abandoned? Is it
Yeah,
not? When was it built? What was it here for? And, I was like, we need to look that up. And it's just back when I was like rushing to school, rushing to daycare, rushing to work. I never would have stopped and rushing home to make dinner. You never would
correct.
stop to think about that. And even if you did take a weekend car ride, like it's just your mindset is not, let's look at the world around us. It's just, what's the next thing so that you can get to the next thing and the next thing. So it's like
Yeah,
all of that starts from the school system and
I was going to
it's
say
like
the
they make
system
us
is
think it's
setting
okay to just get by.
the system is set up that we are busy all of the time. We don't have the opportunities to really explore and take notice of things because we're busy running here and busy running there and get home, from school, homework, dinner, bed, and you just repeat that every single day. And, the benefit of homeschooling is that, you can just get in the car. Like on Monday, just gone, we just picked up the kids from their dads and we just said, hey, we're going to go to the Melbourne Aquarium. And, we stopped to have pancakes and have that family connection time, which we wouldn't get anyway if we were still in that school system. And we sat and the kids ordered like their breakfast and, well, it was brunch really. But, I said, part of learning today is that you guys are going to tell the waitress what it is that you want to eat and drink. And, because they're all a bit socially challenged with their autism spectrum. So they need those practice skills. They weren't comfortable doing it, but hey, they did it and I was so proud of them. And we drove into Melbourne and, the kids were just, going through the tunnel. We've got underground tunnels. I don't know if you have those in America, but underground tunnels and, they're trying to count. We've got this green light that goes along the wall of the tunnel and that means you're going at the right speed as long as you don't pass this green line that's driving in front of you. And, they're counting how many seconds we're away from the green line and the car in front of us and all of that. And then we, like you said about an old building, Melbourne has some really beautiful old buildings. And I said, wow, isn't that a beautiful building? And they're just looking at me like, because it's not new and shiny and tall. It's like made, the bricks are made by hand and they're put together by people that put brick on top of brick. And just the shape of the windows are like curved and round. And I'm like, do you not see how beautiful that is? And then they stopped and they had a look and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty. How did they do that? Like, and then, we spent a good 10 minutes just looking at the corner of this building, just talking about it because we had the time to do it. We weren't in a hurry.
Yeah.
And because we weren't going to Melbourne to look at buildings. We were going to the aquarium. But hey, look at that. We just learned something. We saw something in the beauty that goes into hard work.
You're so right. And I remember
Mm.
last year we had read a book around Christmas time about like a woodworker and it was a children's book. It was really a beautiful story. And we were driving later that day to a play date with friends and we passed somebody on the road that was making like figurines out of wood with his
Wow.
chainsaw just on the side of the road. And I was like, that's weird. So I was like, let's stop and ask him about, what he's doing because that's just what homeschoolers do now, right?
Wow.
So we pulled over and he's like, no, I've been here for years. And I'm like, well, this is another thing I must have passed a million times and never stopped to pay attention to a man literally in the cold with a fire, logs of wood, and just a chainsaw. And
Yeah.
he's making
So
bears
amazing.
and eagles and owls and all this stuff. And so he's telling me like how they wouldn't let him put a building up because of codes and where we live and stuff. And so he was like,
Permits,
well, then
yeah.
I'm just going to do it without the building. And how people on the way to Vermont like stop on the weekends and he sells out every weekend. So then on the way home, my son and I are talking about like, okay, well, if that was your job and you sold 300, and say it takes you a week to make 40 of them and you can sell them for $300, what's 300 times 40? And we're figuring that out. Okay, well, what does he make a year? And okay, well, that's a job you could do someday, so it's
Correct.
like,
Yeah.
you're so right. Homeschooling gives you the opportunity to like really
Explore.
pay attention to life around you and be part of it.
Yeah. And even I'm learning on the go as well. I'm learning so much more than I did when I was in school. Obviously, I went to public schooling, and school was hard for me. I don't call myself a very educated person by any means, but yeah, so I'm learning along with the kids, and education has changed. If the kids came home from school with homework, there's just no way I could help them because what we learned is no longer what's the right word? It's different. It's
relevant.
Changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no relevant, and the way they do things. So my grade sixer is doing work that I probably would have done in year 9 because it keeps evolving, and I just couldn't help them with it. And I said, look, we're going to have to connect with the teachers to help you, which meant they weren't handing their working on time, and that was stressful for them. So yeah, I just very awake now in the way the school system is. My nearly 16-year-old, I guess this is one of his strengths, but it's also one of his weaknesses as well. He is the most awake 15, 16-year-old I've ever known. And school, part of his resistance to go to school was because he's learning the same thing he's learning when he was in grade 3. It's just a little bit of extra tacked on the end. And he goes, Mum, I know all this. And his brain, because he's high functioning, his brain already automatically does it. And he can work it out so quickly, that add-ons of every year. So he's already done it in his head 12 months ago. Then the teachers want it delivered a certain way, but that's not how he worked it out. But it's the same answer. They need it answered in a certain way. And he goes, why? Why do I have to do it that way? I already know the answer. I've already done it. And so we really struggled with that with him towards the end. And I think actually he was the one that made me more awake. I was already on that journey anyway, but that really just pinpointed, well, this is not working, is it? Just not working. So this year, I actually, for him, made my own curriculum with the help of ChatGPT.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was a really resourceful tool to have, especially because he's into gaming and learning about YouTube channels and content creation and things like that. I have no knowledge in that field at all, so we were able to do a basic introduction to content creation and gaming for him for all of the first semester of this year, basically half the year. And he loved it. And we were able to do just chunk sizes at a time, because getting him to sit down and do, even though he's in year 10, that year 10 level, he can't sit there for 6 hours with small, even small breaks. So, and he also struggles with depression as well. So just doing little chunks every day and letting him connect with his friends has been the most beneficial thing for him this year. So that's another benefit. They're struggling mentally as well.
Yeah. Are there other tips and tricks that you would have for parents who do have children with special needs that, like you mentioned before, having something in his hands? Are there certain things that you buy for them to be able to fiddle with, or other tricks that you have found?
Yeah. So over here in Australia, we have something called the NDIS, which is don't ask me to figure out what that actually means, but basically you get their diagnosis and the government funds everybody with a disability some money to buy these things that would normally be out of our pocket that we couldn't afford. We have lots of fidgets in our house, and each one of them are very different. My oldest boy, that's 16, he likes to chew on things, and obviously he was chewing on things like tin cans and sticks and things that are actually very dangerous that could harm him. So we're able to purchase safe chewing sticks and heavy. He likes weight in his hands, so things that are heavy in his hands to hold. We have a wobble seat on his desk chair, and he likes to move around as well. So a lot of the time I'll just find him pacing back and forth in his room, but he'll have his headphones on and he can do that, and he'll be listening to a documentary while he does that, pacing back and forth. We have like an exercise ball that they all use. We use desk chairs at the kitchen table so that they can swivel on to learn. They go out on the trampoline and they sit on the trampoline because one of my girls likes that deep therapy pressure of bouncing. So, they were able to buy a trampoline for us, believe it or not, so to help with those needs. So nothing is out of the question, really, when it comes to being able to support your kids at home, because you have everything here that they need. The school, as much as like when we were in private school, when I pulled them out, they were really good on the welfare. Their welfare was amazing. They looked after them so well. But even with the IEPs and the student support plans they had in place, it wasn't enough. And the kids didn't want to take their own personal sensory items with them because, the fear of being judged, basically. So, yeah, they couldn't take those supports with them to be able to help them in the classroom. And my daughter obviously really needed a support pet, a support animal to go with her to school. And we had the opportunity to do that and take her rabbit to school while she was still in middle school, so grade 5 and 6. Where they weren't going across from different classroom to different classroom. And it could easily just stay on her desk. The rabbit just sat there for her and she could pat it whenever she wanted to. None of the other kids were allowed to touch it. That was the rule. It was just for her use. And that year that she had her rabbit there, she thrived. She absolutely thrived, even in her relationships with other students and her work. But obviously she got to year 7, and that's when they're going to different classrooms and carrying all their books, and she couldn't process that movement with having the rabbit with her and safely doing that, carry all of her books and her laptop. So once she couldn't do that, we saw a dramatic drop in her attendance at school and her work. She just couldn't cope at school in the classroom environment at all. I had days where I just couldn't get to work because I'd drive her, because we live country rural, and so it was a 30-minute drive to school. So it was like pulling teeth from a hen to get her out of bed and get her going and deal with those meltdowns in the morning, get to school, and she just wouldn't get out of the car because she just couldn't, like, she was so overstimulated and dysregulated that I would have to then ring up work and say, hey, I've got to take my daughter back home and look after her now, because now I'm going to need to spend all day helping her re-regulate.
You wonder how many parents would be like, let's get rid of that rabbit because she's just missing school because she wants to be home with that rabbit. But it really is the thing helping her.
And I am really sure some people thought that as well. But yeah, she took that rabbit everywhere. She was taking it to OT. She would take it to some. We managed to get it to get into Kmart sometimes, which is a bit like Walmart in America. But depending who was. I
grew up with a Kmart here. Yeah, we don't have them anymore.
Did you?
But
Yeah. So we don't have a food section in our Kmart anymore. It used to be. It's just clothes and homewares. But I think they cottoned on that there was quite a few people bringing their pets in, that unless it's a service animal and has it on their little jacket, you can't bring it in now. So yeah, that was that. And now she can just sit here at her desk or on the floor or on the trampoline she's got 3 dogs, the dog next to her, putting his head on her lap to keep her regulated because of that deep pressure, and she gets her work done. And all the rabbits sitting on her desk with her on her bed, and she'll be able to focus then and get more done. But she's more of a hands-on girl. So I find that if we're outside in the veggie garden, or we're out at the farm, or we're down at the beach looking in rock pools, or where we've got 5 minutes up the road a little place called Caldermead Farm, and they have animal nurseries and goats and lambs, and we're going out there. And you can also view a milking, what do you call it? A milking farm. It's open to everyone to come and view. So we go down there and we watch the cows get milked and all of that. So just absolutely love that, and she's just learned so much. So
do you guys drink raw milk in Australia?
Actually illegal in Australia.
It's illegal in my state too. Isn't it so crazy?
Yeah, we could, the closest I can find is unhomogenized. I don't even know if that's safe for you. I haven't really done that research, but how close that is to raw milk, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Unreal.
Yeah, and I really I remember my mum and dad, they had friends that were farmers, and every now and then they'd just get like these big buckets of milk, and I was pretty sure that was straight from the cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, still, I
And
think that was
everybody was
still
probably healthier.
I was going to say that was 42 years ago, so, because I'm 42, so yeah, can't do that
Now,
now,
have you,
unfortunately.
I know you haven't been homeschooling too long, but have you found even over the years with the kids in school, are there certain curriculums or styles of learning from the book that are better for special needs than not? I know now you're kind of leaning towards the unschooling, so you're
Yeah,
following their
yeah,
interests and learning through that. But is there,
yeah.
for parents that do want to do a curriculum, is there anything that's better than something else?
But I haven't really ventured into that's something I'm actually going to look at for next year now that we've had this whole year to decompress and find what their interests are. So I've actually just been following what your other guests on here are doing. So some of those things I'll be looking into, like maybe the Waldorf, is that how I say it? Waldorf education. So yeah, something I want to look more at. I'd really like them to just really explore more or give them that confidence that they can learn more than what they're just learning now. Because I feel like right now with this year, they're just, we're just floating because not because it's easy, but I just wanted to give them that, that space to just breathe. So yeah, going to look into a bit, up the ante a little bit and see what they're comfortable with doing. Maybe I will be making my own curriculum again. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I think you're doing it right by starting out with kind of the unschooling approach and seeing what their interests
Yeah,
are. Imagine if
yeah,
teachers in school actually asked us what our interests were, and then we got to, like, I don't even know. I went for so long up until I was like 41 years old. Like, I don't think I have any interests. I don't know. I've just
correct.
always been told what to read, what to do, what to, what job to have that I didn't even, you don't even have free time. Like, you might
No,
say, oh, okay, I like dance. So then you're in 5 dance, you're doing dance classes 5 nights a week, and all of a sudden it's not fun anymore because they
yep.
took, everything fun out of it. Same thing with soccer, okay, practice 5 nights a week and then games, so it's so interesting. And you were talking about it earlier and how they just make you so busy that one, it's to not connect with your family. Same thing as changing the way they do the math problems and all that so that kids can't go to their parents. They want to
Yeah,
kind of sever that bond.
they
But
do.
yeah, they also don't want us figuring out what we really like doing in life. And like,
No.
I recently was like, all right, let's start reading before bed. And I think I was going on vacation and I was like, oh, I'd like to have a book to read. That would just be so nice. I got to read
Mm,
a little bit. I mean, I got the 2 little kids, so it takes me a long time to get through a book, but now I'm like, let's just read before bed for even 10 minutes. It doesn't matter if it's
yep,
like 3 pages, but just
yep.
like I actually enjoy it and look forward to it. So,
I've got a
yeah,
book
it's
sitting beside my
interesting.
bed right now. It's a book I've started reading 4 times. Just sitting next to my bed right now, and I'm like, okay, I might have 2 minutes here or there with a cup of tea, and I might just pick it up and read 2 pages, and I'm like, okay, we'll get through it eventually, but that's okay. That's for me, and I think that's important, especially when you've got kids at home and especially with special needs, you don't have a lot of downtime for yourself because even when you're not homeschooling, their needs are so high that you've got to spend a lot of time with them. I've got one girl
Mm,
who needs somebody with her all of the time. So just
wow.
that emotional support, more than anything, yeah, that lack of time, I think it's important that especially even mums and dads or guardians, whoever's are homeschooling, if you need that time, whether your kids are special needs or not, it's very, very important to have that space. Yeah.
Yeah, so that leads kind of to my next question. What do you do for yourself? Because that, I mean, that is a lot too. Like, my 2
Yeah.
kids are a lot, and I have 2 dogs, and you
Yeah.
just said that you have 3 and a rabbit. So, like,
And we've got 3 dogs and
I
two
can
sorry, two
I
rabbits,
can
two
barely
guinea
keep my
pigs.
cool.
Yeah.
I find it, oh my God, she's still going on with the animals they have, and a
We're getting
kangaroo,
another
right?
one as well. But actually, they're straight across the grass out the front of the house. 100 of them in the reserve out front of our house. So we're surrounded by animals and cats. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, and we're getting adopting
Can you
another
send me
rabbit
a
at the end of
picture of
November.
that sometime? Like, send me a
Sure.
picture of that. I want to see that. That's so cool.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
don't have
yeah.
a single
We've
kangaroo here.
Oh, they're
in America.
surrounded.
How do you not
Well,
go insane because of just so many people needing you all day long? How do you do it?
so for me, it's really, really difficult because I struggle with my own health condition. I have type 1 diabetes as well, and I work a secular job as well as an online business. Finding that time is very, very hard, but I think what helps is, my husband is amazing. He tells me I need to stop sometimes and just take half a day, you know, homeschooling can wait, but also the fact that they go to their dads as well. So even though I do work my secular job a lot on those weeks or those days when they're with their dad, it does give me the space just to breathe or sit down and watch a movie or focus on something. Like you said, I don't have a lot of interest myself because we've brought up that way that we haven't had that time to explore our interests. I struggle to pick up a book, and that's something I'm learning is to pick up a book and it's okay just to sit and read for a while, or it's okay to watch a movie and not do anything else and to stop my brain from overthinking everything.
It's so funny because I saw a reel today on Instagram, and I have thought of making this before too. I'm just not like that good of an actress. But mom, she had a camera on her and she was just like paused, and then it showed her in a different scene paused, and then the caption is like, "You finally get a moment to yourself and you have no idea what to do." Because
it's exactly right.
As the day's going and everybody's like, "Mom, mom," you're like, "Oh my God, I have 50 million things to do," and then it's finally quiet and you can do one of those things and you're like, I have no idea. I have no idea what to do with my time right now.
Should I go have a bath? Should I go for a walk? Should I read a book? I'm like, and by the time you've thought through all those processes, then it's time to go and, make dinner or something like that. And you actually haven't done anything but overthink. But yeah.
The laundry and the cooking and the dishes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a cupboard down the back of the house somewhere that could really have a good thought through. Yeah.
I saw bug spray, like an essential oil bug spray that I got years ago yesterday, leaking down the back of our brand new 3-year-old pantry. And it was just leaking all down the walls and onto the wood. And I'm like, I should clean that. But the dog also got sick in his crate and it was all over my son's walls. And so it's like, that's just gonna have to wait because there are bigger fires going on.
Correct. Yes. Correct. I totally understand that. Yeah.
So, okay, as we round out here, are there any last words that you kind of want to give as encouragement to parents? Because you're kind of at the start of your journey, you're a year in. So you've got that fresh mindset to people that are probably listening, just like you. What have you been listening to the podcast and you're like, I wish somebody would say this?
It's okay. Don't be scared. Just take that plunge, really. If it's something you're considering about doing, and if it's been sitting in the back of your mind about taking that leap, but you don't know where to start, you don't know what to do, just do it. You'll learn along the way. You'll be able to create those spaces for your kids and those opportunities. You can research the curriculum as you go if that's something you want to explore. Everyone's child actually learns differently. So you're going to have to take that time to explore those interests and their needs and just go with what you feel right. Don't worry about what other people think. I think that's the biggest thing for me. I was really worried about what other people think about, they're not sitting and they're not working from a school book, not how our kids learn. So just do with what you feel right. And I think I learned that a lot from listening to all of your other guests. I think I've listened to nearly every single one of them before. My husband was actually the one that found you, and I said, I don't know if this podcast is going to be beneficial because we're in Australia, and I listened anyway, and I've learned so much. I'm so grateful that you have this platform and you're able to help so many people. I encourage everyone to jump on, and you'll want to listen to all of your podcasts. I think
that's so nice. Thank you, because most of the time I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I've had a couple people from Australia on at more than any other country.
Yep. I was actually really surprised at one point in time that
Stefania, I know, is from Australia.
Yeah, and I think they were more up New South Wales way, which is a different state to us. But I'm like, and each state obviously has their own, what's the word, requirements. So we're pretty relaxed here in Victoria. So as long as we're covering those, maths, English, humanities, science, technologies, digital art, all of the art, we can do it however we want to do it, as long as we can provide evidence that we're doing it. And I think
Okay.
there's a 10% chance that you might get a phone call to say, hey, we're going to come and have a little chat with you, see where the kids are at, how you're providing the resources. You're not going to get in trouble if you haven't done it a certain way. They're there to guide you basically and say, hey, have you thought about doing it this way? They're not going to say, hey, you've got to send your kids back to school or anything like that. They're just there to help and support. But
Yeah,
I've
I think
spoken
that's
to
the
some
fear.
homeschooling. Yeah,
Like here
yeah. I think
in the
that,
States, I think that's the fear. People think, okay, if they start putting these regulations on, then what's next? And then what's next? Because our
yeah,
government has proved to us if you give them a little, they
yeah,
take a lot more. So it is a slippery slope, but and then I don't know the exact percentage. Are there kids that are abused and neglected that are, they're not really getting homeschooled? They're just parents not sending
doing
them to
nothing.
school, maybe how many are actually found out about that way? I'd love to know the numbers, but
Yeah,
um
I'm sure there's a small statistic of children that are being neglected and aren't learning in any way, shape, or form. And then you've got that the new age now where yes, you've got your kids home and they're homeschooling, but they sit on computers and devices all day. They're not really learning anything. They're just gaming. I mean, there is a learning experience to gaming. My son does it, but when they're just there gaming all day, all night, they're not.
mhm.
There needs to be a balance there. So I guess that's a new thing that's got to cater for as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Jem, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been so interesting talking to you and so informative and helpful
Yeah,
to parents. So I just thank you so much. And I can even type up in the notes like the little things that you said that you recommended so people don't have to try to find a pen and
yeah.
paper and re-listen to that. I'll just put that right in the notes section because I think that's going to be super helpful. So
Sorry,
thank you
there.
so
Yeah,
much.
happy to pop my link in for my profile for Facebook. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. So if anyone's got any questions on, especially on the neurodiverse side of things and sensory issues, I'm happy to have a chat. And I've got a few links in my bio there to help create safe spaces that our children are in the most, being at home and creating safe places for that environment. So yeah, feel free to click on those links and check that out.
Awesome.
And yeah, happy to have a
I'm gonna
chat
go
to
on and
anyone
hit
who needs a
follow right
hand.
now because sometimes I forget, and I want to make
Yeah,
sure I
that's
see that
okay.
stuff too. So thank you so much, Jem. Have a wonderful evening.
It was really nice talking to you today, Cheryl. Thank you for having me on. It's been a privilege.